Hello, everybody. I'm just on a nightly stroll through the streets of San Diego. I got the beautiful moon guiding me tonight, that divine mother. And I just wanted to talk about something I've been thinking about the last few days. And one thing that started this all was the psychologist and writer Fyodor Dostoevsky. And I was reading through his work, and he talked about something that really struck me and made me think. And, we look around and we wonder why so many people are not living up to their potential, right? Why they just don't have their habits right, their life together. They're depressed, they're suffering, and they're just making all the wrong choices, right? And they're almost voluntarily doing that. Like they know that they're making the wrong decisions, and they still do it willingly and deliberately. So Dostoevsky talks about this, and he says men specifically, and I'll speak for men. I'll let a woman speak for women. But he goes into how men self-sabotage and why do we do it. And he says that the reason why men self-sabotage and they do things that they're not supposed to do, and they get addicted to substances, to food, to greed, to corruption and power. Men do these things because what they're trying to do is prove their individuality. Because courage is great. And the opposite of courage is not fear. It's actually conformity. Conformity is worse than fear, because what we sacrifice when we conform is our own independence and our own individuality. We sacrifice our freedom. And it makes so much sense as to why men will self-sabotage and they'll do things they're not supposed to do. It's because they're proving their individuality. They're being ironic, and they're not listening to what people tell them to do simply because they can, and they prove it. And it's the men who have the most individuality that we find get addicted to drugs, addicted to food, addicted to greed and lust. It's because they don't want to give up their freedom and their individuality, their uniqueness. Because the worst thing you can do, that's even worse than self-sabotage, is to give away your freedom. And it's your freedom of choice, ultimately. Because every moment of every day, we're given a choice to choose between two distinct paths. And you'll notice this for every choice you make from now on, is that there's always the easy, pleasurable, and peaceful path. And then there's the very difficult, combative, confrontational, stressful, and high-pressure path. And what you'll find is that when people go towards the pleasurable, the easy, the peaceful path, they'll gain some dopamine, a little bit of peace, a little bit of entertainment. But once that feeling goes away, they're left with nothing. So what they do is they go down that path again. They look for more dopamine, for more pleasure, for more entertainment. And then as they go further and further down that route, they have to take more and more extremes to the point where they're addicted to all these stimulus and all these substances. And then at the end of it all, they're left with nothing because they took the easy path. They chose convenience. And what happens, if you really look at things, is when we choose pleasure, it always leads to pain and suffering. And it's not about how you start, it's about how you finish. And then there's the other path that you can choose. You choose the path of difficulty, where you might not even be able to walk that path, but you try, and you might get hurt, and you might lose, and you might fail. But you can choose that path again. You can build up your muscles. You can build up your knowledge, your experience. You can go to the gym. You can read those books. You can make those cold calls. You can approach beautiful women. All of these things are very much painful, and they don't provide dopamine. They're actually going to kick your ass. They're going to get your heart going. You're going to feel incompetent. But what's actually happening is, if you keep choosing it, even though it sucks, even though it fucking hurts, you begin to become a little bit more resilient, a little bit more knowledgeable. You go through the level, and you might get a little bit further before you fail. And then you try again, and then you get a little bit more further. Say you go to the gym, and you haven't worked out in a long time. You do a really good workout, and then the next day you're sore. You feel horrible, no energy, you're sluggish. And your muscles are sore all over. And you rest up, you let your body heal. Come next week, you do that same workout. Come to find out, you can even do a couple more reps because your muscles are a little bit more prepared this time. And then the next day, you're not as sore. It's more of a subtle pain. You're like, oh yeah, all right, it's still there. And then you just choose to do this more and more. You read those books. You acquire that knowledge. You acquire that strength, that competence, that power. You begin to develop an awareness because you're putting yourself in high pressure situations. You're expanding your bandwidth. And you become influential and powerful and a force to be reckoned with. And still you haven't gotten any dopamine yet. But now you'll start to see the fruits of your labor. And it's not going to be dopamine that you achieve. You're going to achieve rewards that far outweigh dopamine and, satisfaction. It's a whole nother level. See, the best rewards are only given to those who are worthy, who go into that cave, who fight that dragon, or they ride that dragon, and then you gain that gold that the dragon hoards in the cave. Because you become a warrior, you become a magician. You gain that knowledge and that competence, and you challenge that difficult path, and you walk that shit. So basically what I'm saying is that if we want true meaning and true fulfillment out of our lives, we have to gain full control over our power of choice. And instead of choosing that easy path, we choose the difficult path. Because the easy path will be pleasurable, but it will lead to pain. And the difficult path, we will choose it, and it will start out with pain, but it will end in pleasure and meaning and fulfillment. And instead of having nothing at the end of the easy path, when you get to the end of the difficult path, you'll have everything. And this is essential to having true freedom. All right, so to tie in Dostoevsky back in, it's very important that men deliberately and willingly make their own choices. And if it does lead to self-sabotage, it's still better than sacrificing your freedom and your individuality. And it is commendable to men who still hold on to that individuality and that freedom. And it all ties in with choice. And what men can't do is sacrifice their freedom to choose. Once you give that away, you become even worse than the self-sabotager. You become a slave. And a lot of people might get to this point where they go down, they make all those choices, and then they become a slave to them. And they chose that path for themselves. But after everything I've talked about, and if we grasp that individuality and that freedom and the power of choice, and instead of self-sabotage, we choose that difficult path in rebellion with deliberate and willful intent to go against conformity and to do something better and more meaningful, and to seek out those rewards inside the caves where the dragons are, and we become competent and powerful. That is truly how we prove our individuality and our freedom. Instead of choosing the easy route, we chose the difficult path, and we gave it everything we have. And this is one of the most inspirational and meaningful choices a man can ever make, is when he finally chooses the difficult path. And he does it every moment and every day. He does what he should and not what he wants. And from pride, the man becomes honor. So, thank you for listening, men of ethos. Let us go from pride to honor, from prince to king. And let us choose that difficult and honorable path that has far better rewards than the easy path. Everybody is over there on the easy path. It's only the outliers and the most high quality, powerful men who choose the difficult path. And it is the path that I will choose for the rest of my life.